So thank you for the lovely introduction, Deepa. I really appreciate it. And for inviting me to be a first-time speaker on this series. Like Deepa mentioned, I previously come from a healthcare background and stage manager for theater. And I think because I come from a healthcare background, I just had an affinity for wanting to make sure things were accessible. It's interesting how they teach accessibility like off the bat, but I think the sooner people are educated about it, they can kind of just start sprinkling it into their code or wherever they're working. So like Deepa said, I'm here to talk about web accessibility and building a web for everyone. So I'm going to go over four different things. I'm going to start off with the importance of web accessibility. And I'm going to go into introduction to what is WCAG, which is the guidelines, really. Then I'll go over a couple quick wins and fixes that you can implement even starting today. And then lastly, I'll go over the business case for building accessibly, and then Q&A as well. So first of all, I want to ask the group, how often do you typically think about accessibility in your daily life and your interactions in the world? 1 for rare, feel free to type in 1 for rarely, 2 sometimes, 3 always. Just want to get a feel for where everybody is starting off with. Cool, good chunk of 2s, that's good. Nice, all right. And then what about how often do you think about accessibility within your work? Would it be about the same? 1 rarely, 2 sometimes, 3 always? Okay, nice. I like that there's a good chunk of 2s. Oh, that's awesome that we have a 3 as well. Yeah, pretty much by the end of this talk, I just want to enable people to have the starting points to be able to kind of start thinking more than they already do about accessibility. So first of all, I want to go over why web accessibility matters. Accessibility affects more people than we usually think. There's a statistic that 1 in 4 US adults lives with a disability. Additionally, 1 in 7 people globally will actually experience some form of a disability, whether temporarily or permanently within their lifetime. And then on top of that, 70% of all websites that exist have critical accessibility failures, importantly. So I'd like you to imagine here's a storefront here. Looks like there's a set of stairs with a stroller in front. Just off the bat, looking at it, doesn't look like there's any other options for getting up into the storefront. You can imagine that your website is the equivalent of these public spaces or stores, and you want to make sure that just like public spaces should be accessible, that your website should be just accessible as well. Yeah, it's really weird how, or unfortunate how high that statistic is, unfortunately. So I'm trying to educate more people so we can better that statistic overall. So again, here's another example. Let's say we're trying to catch the subway. The picture is like a dark stairwell. Doesn't look like there's any ramps or signage. It's dim lighting, so it's difficult to see or get around. Again, these are things that it affects people of all capabilities, unfortunately. So what can we do? Oh yeah. So like I said, accessibility and making those fixes affects everyone. Can anyone give me an example of things that were probably designed to help disabled people that actually is beneficial to everyone?
Anyone? Voice.
Anyone?
Darla says voice.
Yeah, voice is great. Yeah, that's a good one, especially more recently. I use it a lot all myself, telling Google to turn devices on or off.
And anyone else?
Anyone else? If not, no worries. I have several.
I can't say it, but oh yeah, high color contrast.
Yeah, definitely.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you for participating. I really appreciate it. But I will also go into a couple examples. So keyboard and mobile navigation. So people who have motor impairments, or even parents, as an example, like this gentleman in the picture holding his baby in his arms. It's easier to go through websites single-handedly if you have keyboard or better mobile navigation. Simpler DOM. If you have too much of a dynamic load on your website, it will be difficult for people in remote areas or with poor reception to easily access your website. And there's larger touch targets, typically geared towards aging populations or people with larger fingers like myself, where sometimes I have an issue, especially when it's the icon buttons on my mobile device. Ramps on sidewalks, probably meant to be for mobility impaired individuals, but it can be accessible for people on bikes, skateboards, wheelchairs, strollers, and just people walking on it. It's a lot easier than having to take the extra step when you're crossing the street. Like David mentioned, dark mode or high contrast colors. As a web developer, I use it all the time, whether it's an app or whether I'm developing. It's a lot easier on the eyes and geared typically for those with color or contrast vision impairments. Closed captioning is another good one. If you're watching a video in a loud or a quiet environment and you can't hear the audio appropriately, having the closed captioning helps you understand the full context of what's happening in the video you're watching. I use closed captioning all the time when I'm watching movies because sometimes I feel like either the actor speaks too quietly or like too quickly and I might have missed a part. And then again, like Darla mentioned, having voice activation of things is really helpful and something that's popped up as now that we have smart devices within the home. So now I wanted to introduce to you what WCAG or WCAG is. And that is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which was developed by the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, and their Web Accessibility Initiative, WAI. So lots of acronyms. So WCAG is pretty much a series of documents explaining how to make web content more accessible to people with disabilities. They also created the WAI ARIA attributes that can be used to apply to HTML elements to improve accessibility. ARIA attributes are especially important in more complicated components that we've been building on more modern frameworks, as we typically do like divs, and you want to make sure that you have all of the appropriate labels and descriptions for the assistive devices to be able to read that aren't built in like they usually are for semantic labels. So what are the guidelines? It's based on 4 core principles, and those are the 4 pillars of WCAG. I will drop this link in the chat as a quick reference. But this is a good place to kind of get started on how to start developing accessibly. So P stands for perceivable, O is operable, U understandable, and R is robust. So diving deep into each. So perceivable, can users sense your content? Whether that's through vision, through hearing assistive devices, through keyboard navigation. An example is a video playing muted. You should have captions so people can understand what's happening in the videos and perceive the content that way. If you're using image tags, use the alt attributes to describe what that image is so that those screen reader users can have that experience of what I should be visualizing on the page. Another point, color contrast should be enough. If you have insufficient color contrast, it will be really difficult for your users to be able to read the content on your web page. O is operable. I have an image of a gentleman using a stick to type in on his keyboard. And then there's a set of hands doing keyboard navigation. But operable stands for, can users navigate your content without using a mouse? Can they use the keyboard? Can they use other assistive devices, whether that's voice control, switch control? There's so many that exist, but pretty much if you're able to use and navigate your website without a mouse. So U is understandable and R is robust. I kind of combine these together because they go hand in hand. So you want to make sure that your website is understandable for all users and you're able to understand the page content and the functionality so that you don't end up frustrated like this guy in the photo. So ways that you can make sure that it's understandable and robust, you should use semantic tags. Robust, you want to make sure it works on all assistive devices and also all different browsers as well. So you want to make sure that you test all of those different combinations. So I'm going to give you the link to this accessibility demo.
Joy, do you want me to share these slides maybe later?
I think you can. Here, I'm going to just drop this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have you try to navigate this page with your screen readers. So, screen reader demo. So here are the commands to turn on the screen readers for your various operating systems. Chrome OS is Control Alt and Z. Mac OS is Command F5. Windows OS is Control Windows Enter, I believe. And so this should be the demo. I'm going to turn on my screen reader and kind of go through it.
VoiceOver on Chrome. Web accessibility. Building a web for everyone. Google Slides. Pinned. Google Chrome. Joy.
Okay, so
we cannot see a screen, but then we did hear the voiceover.
W3org. Demos bad before home H. Welcome to City Lights. Inaccessible homepage. Web content. You are currently on a toolbar item palette link. Image. Red dot with a white letter C that symbolizes.
Navigate as an example. So I'm either using tab to go from interactive element to interactive elements, or control an option to kind of arrow through each of the things.
Red dot with a /top underscore a quick menu greater than group. You are quick menu greater than menu pop up quick menu greater than group. You /mark GIF image. You are currently on an image. To begin interacting with the traffic, construction work on main road today. Traffic. Construction work on main road. Today, Thursday, 8 May, 2025. Today. Thursday, today, track /marker 2 underscore WGIF image /marker 2 underscore WGIF image. You are currently on an image.
So I'm going to actually try to see if I can get to the article section and find an article that I want to read.
Okay, are you sharing the before and after demonstration page? Because
hang on.
Preview. Welcome to City Lights. Inaccessible homepage. Web content.
Sorry, what was that, Deepa?
Yeah, no. I was asking. You said that the article one is. I just want to make sure that we are in the right.
Yes. So we're gonna start off in the inaccessible page so that we can kind of see what an inaccessible experience is like, and then we'll do a kind of compare and contrast with the accessible page.
Yes, sounds good.
Cool. So I think we were.
Welcome link.
Oops.
You are currently on a link. Skip to link. Unlabeled image. Unlink image. Web accessibility initiative Y. Logo. Y home. Heading in list link. List in app link. Visit link. End of link. Visited link. End of red / red visit end quick end track end of to Thursday. End of / market unlabeled image /nav underscore home /marker 2 unlabeled image /marker 2 underscore WGIF image unlabeled / blank underscore 5 time. Welcome to City Lights. Welcome to City Lights.
Okay.
You are currently on a
so now we're
selectable
at least
text.
in the main section. Ideally, we would want a skip to the main content.
City Lights is the new portal for visitors and residents. / headline underscore middle GIF unlabeled image link heat wave link to temperatures. / headline underscore middle GIF unlabeled link. Man gets 9 months at / headline underscore link / headline underscore group. After 3 years of effort, city link mayor these link news HTML.
Okay, so
yeah, that's
like Taylor was saying, trying to practice using the commands is always kind of a learning curve as well. So again, is it easy to kind of figure out what the keyboard strokes are? But just to give
just to imagine, we can see, we can all navigate through this, but I can see that it's very hard to even navigate through this. Imagine a person who's having a hard time looking at the keyboard or trying to do with that. It's going to be insane. Yeah,
absolutely. So it's definitely one of those things. It's good to see what an inaccessible experience is like, and then kind of trying to compare it against the accessible. I chose this example because we can see the back and forth with some of this small changes. Later on, we'll be auditing just like ESPN.com to kind of see a public facing page that, you know, to see how we can navigate through it or see how it's audited as. So as you saw, it went through all of the titles of the articles, and then it went to the link for more. And the more link, because the previous header that got read was lack of brains, my assumption is that where I'm at is going to lead to the brain article. So that's a little bit difficult. So if we go to
Visited. Welcome to City. You are currently on a link.
Page now and try to navigate and do the same thing. Just off the bat, just by looking at it, you can see that there's like a go button to kind of activate your quick menu. The links for the articles now have at least a title where it goes to the full story. So it's just looking at it offhand, it's already improved in that way.
And I also heard that, you know, when there was when it was trying to voice over, the images were also not there. I kind of noticed that too.
Exactly. A lot of the times for the icons, it would just read the name of the file as opposed to this is the home link or this is the news link. So let's check this out.
Link. Skip to content within demo page. List to item.
This already is way more intuitive. It allows you to skip to the content if you want to.
Visited. Link. Skip to navigation within demo page.
Okay. So
you are currently on a link.
Skip to the demo. That's nice.
Link. News. List for.
So it automatically brought us from that navigation or to the navigation rather than having to go through all of those links that I had to at the beginning. And when
link. Tickets. You are currently on a link.
It reads the text tickets as opposed to reading the name of the file.
Link. Level 1. Link. Heat wave link to temperatures. You are currently on a heading level 2 inside of web content.
Okay, so let's see if
link. Heat wave. Full story. You are currently on a link.
So this is a lot more intuitive. It goes from the title of the article and it goes to the related link rather than me going through all of the different titles and getting kind of confused as to where I'm at. And even so, even if I were a little bit confused, it shouldn't because the link is a lot more descriptive. And so I should know where I'm going. All right, so I'm going to turn off my voiceover.
Voiceover off.
And go back to our presentation. Well, thank you for going through that with me. So now that we've seen what an inaccessible experience is like and an accessible experience is like, I want to give you a couple top accessibility quick fixes that you can implement starting today. You can use semantic HTML tags. The nice thing about semantic HTML tags is the fact that the browser and screen readers already kind of have like a built-in how to understand or interpret those specific tags right out of the box. Also, you can use alt tags on all of your images. Properly label all your forms. Don't just use placeholders or values of your inputs. Make sure that they're labeled by a label tag. You want to order your heading tags. Make sure they're going H1, H2, then H3, like in a organized manner. And then also just make sure you have passing color contrast. So I'm going to deep dive and show some code snippets of how it works. So for using semantic HTML tags, I have the don't snippet, which is just using a div with a on-click function. And then for the recommended option is using the button element with the function itself. So like I was saying, assistive devices and browsers have it automatically built in to recognize these tags and provide easy accessibility out of the box. So I will, I'll go to this demo real quick. Can everybody see it okay? Let me know if you need me to zoom in or not. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So pretty much the way that I've designed these buttons, the HTML is, I'm just going to move the JS. We just know that we have a clickable. These are both clickable. It opens up a dialog for both real button, fake button. Button 1 is our non-focusable button because it's just using a div. And I've attached a class to give it a button look. But if I take off all of these stylings that I've added to it, it will not look like a button at all, or would not be recognized as a button at all. So as an example, so now it just looks like regular text. If I were just a seeing user, I would definitely not anticipate that as a button at all. Whereas button 2, I have no CSS attached to it. The browser automatically applied some very basic button stylings. Obviously, you can override it on your own, but it's nice to have that out of the box from the browser. And then I'm going to turn on the screen reader and we're going to focus in.
VoiceOver on Chrome. A11Y Talk WCAG.
Okay.
Code pen demo. Frame. Heading level 1. WCAG operable. Heading level 2. Non-HTML. Heading level 3. Non-focusable button. You are currently on a heading level.
So I'm going to use the tab to try to move to the next interactive element.
Button 2. Button. You are currently on a button.
Automatically, it knows to focus on that button. It skipped our div button entirely. So like I said, right out of the box, it's nice that you can just use those just by using plain HTML semantic tags. You can do things though, where you can make your button div more focusable or accessibility friendly. I'll show you that shortly. But
heading level 3. Button 1. You are currently on a selectable text inside of a frame.
So I was able to focus back on button 1, but that's when I was just kind of traversing just like I do text. So it's kind of like if I were reading a paragraph, it would kind of see the text, but it doesn't recognize it as an interactive element. So I can fix this div by adding
HTML code editor. Edit text. You are currently on a text area inside of web content. VoiceOver off.
You can make this more accessible by telling the browser that this is a role button. So therefore, and I can also make it, I believe it's tab index 0. Should make it focusable. Let's try this out now.
VoiceOver on Chrome. A11Y Talk W Spin. Code pen demo. Frame. Button 1. Button. You are currently on a button.
So now by applying tab index equals 0, it's telling the browser and the assistive device, this is something I do want to focus on. And I'm not sure if you heard, but it did say button when focusing on it.
Button 2. Button 1. Button.
Yep.
You are currently on a button.
Because I added that ARIA role of button, it now recognizes it as a button and will announce it as such. This is being recorded, Darla. Okay, so I'm going to go up back to
button 1. Button. VoiceOver off.
All right, so on to our next example of quick fixes. Always use alt attributes with your image tags. As an example, what I mean by that, the don't, I have an image element with a source, but there's no alt attribute at all. What you do want to do is for your image tag, you have your source. If it's not supplying any context on your page and you want it to be skipped by the screen reader, use alt with an empty quotation marks. That way the screen reader knows there's something here, but we don't want to read it or announce it because it doesn't really provide value. If it is informative, use alt equals and then your descriptive text. So I will go to this demo again. I have it down here. So as I was saying, here's the code snippet where there's no, no alt tag attached to this first image. And then the second one has a filled out alt tag. So I'm gonna just turn on my screen reader. Oops, sorry. Wrong.
VoiceOver. You are currently on an application. Code pen demo. Frame. You are currently on a heading level 1. Open, delete, add to collection. Button. Code pen demo. Frame. Pin. Code pen demo. Frame. Heading level 1. Head button. Heading level button. Horizontal. Heading level 2. IMG with and without alt tab. You are currently on a heading level 3. No alt tab. You to get missing image descriptions. Open the context menu. Unlabeled image. Okay. You are currently on an unlabeled image.
So like the screen reader said, it's an unlabeled image.
Heading level 3. With alt 2 golden retriever puppies in the middle of grass with flowers. Image. You are currently on an image.
So it properly read out loud my alt tag description when I focused on the second image. One way that you can actually, like I said, if you use an empty tag, it'll skip it entirely. And I'll show that here. Let's apply our empty.
HTML code empty all equals. Are currently on a text area inside of web content. Code pen demo frame. You are currently on a heading level 1 inside of a frame. To exit this web area, press Control Option. Code pen open the app embed button. Code pen demo frame. Code pen demo frame button open lift delete button. You are currently on code pen demo frame. Code pen demo frame heading level 1 button 2 horizontal heading level 3 no alt tab. You are currently on a heading level 3 inside of a frame.
Okay, so now we're sorry about that. It's code pens a little with the focus. So now I'm going to try focusing in on that tag or empty alt tag image.
Heading level 3 with alt tab.
As you can see, it skipped it entirely now. So if it's just a decorative image, use the alt tag, but keep it empty.
Web accessibility. Building a web for everyone. Google's voiceover off.
Okay, so third thing that you can do is properly label your forms. Don't code snippets has an input, but it doesn't have any labels attached. It's pretty much just using its value attribute as its label. The recommended code snippet is using the label tag with the 4 attaching it to the ID of the input below it. It's also supplementing it with a placeholder of instructions on what to do with that input. So like I said, use labels with your input tags. Don't just rely on using the value and or the placeholder alone. Okay, so there's no code styling at all. It's just straight HTML. And we're just going to turn this on and check it out.
Voiceover on Chrome. A11Y unclear form. A11Y unclear form demo. Frame. Heading level 1. HTML form. First name. Content selected. Required. Edit text. You are currently on a text field. Select Y. Joy.
Which is fine. I've put my first name. I'll move
Last
on to the
name.
next
Content
one.
selected.
Let's say, oh, I made a typo. I want to change what I
Joy.
put.
Content joy.
Now that since it's only using the value attribute, there are no other instructions to tell me, oh, what was this input for? So again, if you're using a placeholder, that's nice, but having an actual label, it will read it out. So I'll show you on the bottom.
Last submit John. Content selected. First name. Edit text. You are currently on a text field.
So off the bat, it read the first name and applied it to the input when I focused on it.
John. You do. Content selected. Last name. Edit text.
So even if I go back to that.
First name. Edit text. You are currently on a text.
It still reads from the label that's associated with it that the first name is what's supposed to go into there. So. All right.
Voiceover off.
All right, 4th example. You want to use your heading tags in order, starting with your H1, H2, and H3. Each page must have one H1 per page. It's kind of like telling this is the main topic of my page, and all of your accessibility audits will look for at least one of those. You don't want to use them out of order, like an H2 before an H1 or H5 or H3, just randomly. And you also don't want to use the heading tag for style purposes only. It's like, oh, I like how the H3 looks, so I'm just going to implement the H3 here. That's not recommended because the heading tags numbers are kind of similar to when you're creating an outline. It helps you organize what's grouped together kind of thing. So the recommended way to use it is, like I said, have your main H1 at the top of the page, and then you can have your subsection titles using the using the other H heading tags. Here's a demo of an inaccessible way to use them. So again, this has no CSS attached to it at all. These are just the semantic tags out of the box, and it already applies different font sizes and weights just by being that specific heading tag. And if you look at this, it doesn't look like it's organized at all, like based off of trying to navigate it. I'm not sure if this is a child of this section it can be really confusing. So what you want to do, so here we have the headings in order. We have the H1, we have some text, we have the H2, and each of the respective titles going down. Looks a little bit more organized. Even if I were to use multiple of the same, like H2, then it could be like they're two equal sections, I guess, if that makes sense. Again, I like to think of it as kind of how you would organize like an outline in a document. All right, for the last one, use color contrasts that's greater than, sorry, this is supposed to be 4.5 to 1. For your text to background, the ideal contrast is 4.5 to 1, minimum 3 to 1, depends on the strictness of which guidelines you're trying to follow. You can use a tool like Contrast Checker for WebAIM. If you go on Google and just search color contrast checker, there are a bunch that will pop up. I'll show the demo in a second. Let's the contrast checker, and I'm just going to pop in the values that I have in my example. So the background is white, and I think I have yellow, so EEFF00. So as you can see, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. I don't know if any of you can read that even through this presentation. Even with the large text, it's really difficult to read yellow on white, pretty much. So let's try changing it to a more 575. So this passes both the WCAG AA and the AAA for normal text. So that's just kind of like your P tag text. And then large text, so any bold or larger text, it passes that as well. So this is a nice way to kind of compare which strictness you're trying to follow. And then you can also kind of play around with the lightness of if I changed my backgrounds and whatnot as well. All right, so now I'm going to go over a couple accessibility auditing tools. First one, if you use Chrome as your browser, what's nice about Chrome Lighthouse is that it's automatically built into Chrome DevTools. And it's a quick way to do a quick audit of your page, and it's free. Wave. Wave is a web accessibility evaluation. It's a set of free online tools. You can either enter the URL on the Wave page, or they also have a browser extension that you can install. Then we have Axe DevTools, various tools that are free and paid made by DQ that are made to audit your browser and mobile devices. So what I'm going to do, oops, sorry. Okay, so we're going to go to this demo, ESPN. We're just going to do a quick audit. So I am using Inspect, getting to my DevTools. And in the top navigation bar, if you click on the more options, you can see there's Lighthouse right there. I'm just going to do a accessibility and SEO only, but you can check for performance and best practices as well. What's nice is, oh, I think it's also, hang on a second. Here we go. Okay, ran it earlier. There we go. I think because I had the the website loaded on multiple tabs, it was getting confused. So you can either scan for mobile devices and or desktop, but we're just going to do desktop real quick. Just takes a couple seconds. Again, it's kind of like the simple DOM, right? If you have more elements that it needs to load, it will take a little bit longer. All right, so this one falls within the warning, I guess, bracket of 50 to 89 to 78 accessibility score with Lighthouse. And what's nice is it'll tell you what the groups of failures you have. So off the bat, it says image elements do not have alt attributes, which was, I said was something that we can easily fix off the bat. Looks like there's a lot of alt attributes missing on the images, but it will tell you which ones are missing it. So you can kind of go through them individually and update them. Links don't have a discernible name. So as we were going over one of the websites earlier where it focused and it just read the name of the image, if you add an ARIA label to that icon, it will kind of give it a textual description of what you want that button to do or link to do. Also, another one that we discussed earlier, background and foreground colors do not have sufficient contrast ratio. It will show you all the examples. All right, now let's try it on Axe DevTools. I've installed that on my browser, so as you can see, all of the locked items, that's for Axe DevTools Pro, which I believe is more AI-based and kind of can give you like a deeper analysis of accessibility issues on your page. But the free stuff is we will do the full page scan. So this one has a total of 80 issues that it's caught. And what's nice, again, it will group it each and tell you how many failures per group of tests. So first one, again, color contrast. It's a very common issue that can easily be fixed. And again, it will tell you where it's failing, which elements specifically, and it even gives you a way to fix that specific case. And it'll go all the way down. Same thing, images must have alternative text. Very common thing. And again, it will go through each of the options as you go through all of them. Okay, now I'm going to just show how you use Wave. So nice thing about Wave is you don't have to install it at all if you don't want to. You can, like I said, it has browser extensions and API engines. But what we're going to do is we're just going to do a scan using their websites. All right, this one caught a lot more errors. Looks like 165. Again, there's contrast errors that were found. Lots of missing alt text, 140, it says. Same thing, linked images are missing alternative text. Missing form label, that was one of the fixes that we discussed as well. 31 contrast errors. As you saw, as we pretty much examined the exact same link with different tools, some tools will catch, others won't catch bugs that other audit tools might not. So I think it's a good practice to kind of use a variety of tools in your tool belt, so to speak, and kind of check with all of them and kind of make sure that you're hitting all those main targets. But at the end of the day, an audit, you're still going to have to do a manual audit of your page. So similarly to how we checked out the inaccessible and accessible page and tabbed through it for the navigation, you want to do the same even after you've done the quick audit scan that you've done with any set of these tools, because sometimes that can help you find navigation flow issues that might not be caught by these these software scans. All right, so AI has impacted so many different industries, and accessibility is also included in there. And there are several things tools that AI has helped to streamline. So it can generate alt text descriptions for you. Sometimes I'll provide an image and I just don't know what to put myself. So AI can help you with that. AI is also responsible for helping the voice activated browsing, which is nice. And another one that I actually really like is live closed captioning. So if you wanted to, I'm not sure if this video chat does it, but I think Google Meet does it. I think Zoom does it. But
we can enable it if I want to. I didn't enable it.
Exactly. But I think it's like for the user who's watching, right? It's like you're able to kind of turn that feature on or off if you would like it to. So also there's a bunch of AI auditing tools, like I said. So there's Axe DevTools Pro that can kind of go over way more things than just like the free version. I've also heard that Accessibility is pretty popular, and UserWay. Just a quick I actually haven't used any of the AI auditing tools myself. I use the ones that I showed you, but I think they're definitely worth looking into, and if you're curious at all. All right, so before we end, I wanted to give you the business case for accessibility. So if you're trying to pitch, why should we build accessibly to your company? First of all, one of the big ones is that it's a legal matter. Like I was saying at the beginning, public spaces, like in the real world, just those need to be accessible. Your website needs to be the same. So you can actually get sued for not having an accessible website. One famous example was Beyonce's production company. Back in 2019, they had a website that was selling merchandise, tickets, and whatnot. But users that were trying to use assistive devices found that there were no alt tags on their images. And so when they were trying to scan what they were trying to buy, they couldn't actually figure out what they were buying. So again, like that was a big hurdle or blockage even that prevented them from purchasing anything from that company. So they sued and won for discrimination. Another big one is Hasbro. I think it was back in 2023. Hasbro is known for making Barbie, Play-Doh, a bunch of toys and board games. Similar thing where they didn't have any alt tags on their images. And again, trying to buy anything online is such a visual process. If it doesn't have like a description of what you're clicking or focusing on, there's no way that you can actually pick what product or service that you're trying to buy. I think they also had an issue with their form tags weren't labeled as well. So again, these are some of the big things that I mentioned on how to fix. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there's the European Accessibility Act. This one is more of I think it's kind of pushing people to be urgent about making these accessibility changes because it goes into effect June 28th of this year. So just a little over 6 weeks from now. Violators can be fined heavily or even be banned from being shown in Europe in a nutshell. So imagine if you haven't met any accessibility guidelines that date, they might not show your website after June 28th, or they might just not even have your app available on their app stores. Also, SEO. Accessible websites rank higher in SEO and therefore can increase your conversion. And then last of all, UX and usability. So by improving accessibility and improving UX, for disabilities, you're really improving it for everyone, like we discussed back at the beginning. All right, last notes. I recommend you go and audit a page this week using one of the recommended tools like Lighthouse, XDev Tools, Wave, or even maybe try giving some of the AI accessibility audit tools a shot, and try implementing one of the quick fixes that I mentioned into one of your own projects. Thank you. All right, I see that there's actually several questions in the.
Yeah, I was about to read through it. So yes, I was just curious. I posted most of the questions too. So
yeah,
I just wanted to ask you: is there any different tags that we have to use based on the vendors, browser vendors? Like Safari has a different WebKit, right? The engine itself is different, and do we have to pay attention to those browser-specific ones? That's my question.
I don't think there's any specific ones off the top of my head. And that's why I recommend that when you build, you have to test each browser kind of to see how they act. So there was, I had an issue at work where they were saying, I think, let's imagine a select box. And as you're kind of tabbing through the multi-select and you're kind of like, oh, let's say pizza toppings, pepperoni selected, cheese not selected, pineapple not selected. They were expecting all of the screen readers and browser types to act the same way and say selected if it's selected and not selected if it's not selected. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Not all of them. There's no specific guideline on this is what the most accessible way to read something is. And so what I recommend is try to test I think even just like I said, bare HTML, test your Angular, React, or Vue, your more complicated components in those same instances to see if there's something missing. Because if there's the issue with, if there's not an issue in the regular select tag, as an example, versus your complex tag, there might be something in your complex tag that's missing that the HTML tag is, like I said, has it built in, right? And so there is no one size fits all.
I get it. So
yeah, to see what the standard is for your, let's say, voiceover, standard is for NVDA or JAWS or something.
And we do have another question from Tyler. Tyler, do sections and nav do more than just signal what something is for accessibility purposes? Does it change how a screen reads a page?
It does. So, well, yeah. So with the screen reader, when you're going through it, it will actually recognize navs and announce it as a nav, as opposed to like if I just do a section or like a section that has kind of links in it, it will just see it as a section with links in it if I'm trying to indicate a nav. But if I wrap it in a nav tag, it will literally say end of navigation, start of navigation. It will know that that container is a navigation related container. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question, Tyler?
You can unmute yourself if you want to speak. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next question we have.
It does.
Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Tyler, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Oh, he said he was good, I think. Unless you have a follow-up.
Sorry, I have to switch tabs between the DM and the chat and the Q&A is different windows, so I'm not able to switch those.
No worries.
So I have another question from Anthony. Anthony is asking, can you touch on ARIA attributes like ARIA labeled by? Where do they help?
So ARIA labeled by can assist when, so let's say you want to do input tags, but have like you don't want to have that text that's like literally shown on top of it, right? You can technically have that label as hidden and add ARIA labeled by. And so similarly to how you have label, like you're going to put ARIA labeled by, use the ID that the input is using, and the screen reader will know that that hidden tag is associated with your input. So those are ways to kind of like, if you're trying to accommodate certain styles or certain looks, ARIA labeled by is like really helpful in those types of situations where you can provide the labeling for like a hidden, like with a hidden. Does that help, Anthony?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, he said yes. Okay, the next question is, does Wave do a scan per URL? What if I have 1,000 pages in my website? Is there a scaled approach? I think Axe does that for every single thing, if I remember. But it's a paid version, remember?
Right. I don't know if Wave, to be honest, I don't use Wave a lot. But
it's just for a quick scan in a way. But if you want a detail, like if you're doing a large enterprise scale jazz note, then you have to use the paid version of the Axe.
Yeah, for something that large, you would probably have to invest in a paid version, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it can do a deeper level of every single endpoint. You can do that. I remember doing that too. So Eric has another question. Where is the intersection of UX and front-end development? Do you work together to build or research accessibility? There are some teams who do that.
It depends on specific teams. I mean, I do think UX designers are becoming a lot more educated when it comes to accessibility. So I do think that accessibility needs to be dealt with like when you're doing the designs before it's even built out, because then trying to go back and change some of the semantic tags, like I said, that can be a little bit more complicated and might break some legacy code. So if you have the opportunity to work with your UX designer at the front, before it's even built out, you can kind of work together on how we can implement as many semantic elements as possible. Not sure if that helps. So yeah, I think it really just depends. Oh, you're muted, Deepa. Yeah, so I think it depends per company. I mean, that's my ideal, to be able to work with the UX designer at the forefront, to kind of just to be able to address any accessibility issues.
I think usually the UX in a large company, they do have a UX person do it, and then do a market research and things like that. But I am not too sure of smaller companies. So I hope that answers the question. We are about 4 minutes time, but still, I have some things to the end. So we will get started. If anybody has any questions, please do wait. Let's have the other speaker come and speak, and then we can have the Q&A at the end too, depending on the time. Okay. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I learned a lot. Personally, I enjoyed every single demo, and I didn't feel that you were a first-time speaker, to be more honest. You look like a pro. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot for doing this.
Thank you all for your time. Have a good one.
Yeah. If you could stop sharing again.
There we go.
Sorry about that. Oh, cool. Okay. Our next up is, which one should I share? I have no idea which one I'm in. Okay, this guy. Okay. Next up is we have Jasanup Singh. And he is a senior engineer. Jazz, are you there? If you can come in. Hi, welcome. And he is a software engineer who has worked in prominent big tech organization. He has developed a strong expertise in designing and building scalable distributed systems, and that caters millions of users. As you can see, he's from Meta, so you should know that they scale a lot of users. So welcome, Jazz. Glad to have you. Please take the screen, and I will mute myself, and just give me a minute. Let me stop recording and then start recording so that I can edit as two videos. Okay, let me stop sharing this.